Well, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Dave, and I'm one of the owners and operators of Homeschool Tracker. And just want to start by saying thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know there are a lot of different things you could be doing at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, so greatly appreciate you spending some time with us tonight to learn a little bit more about Homeschool Tracker and how to use it effectively in your homeschool. And that's really the mission here at Homeschool Tracker. It's to not only provide you with the tools to be more effective in your homeschool, but then to also give you the training and the support necessary to utilize those tools within your homeschool. And that's really what webinars like tonight's are really all about. Just being there for you to give you the support that you need and the training so that you can use these tools effectively day in and day out in your homeschool. So a few housekeeping notes. We are recording this session, and we will send a link to the recording to everyone that attends. We'll go for about an hour tonight, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. I'm happy to stay on as late as necessary to make sure all of your questions are answered. But let's go ahead and dive right in. I want to go ahead and first off start talking a little bit about what we're going to cover tonight. So first thing we'll do is we'll talk about where to find help. If you've been using Homeschool Tracker, you may have noticed that it is a very feature-rich program, and so I want to make sure you know where to go for help if you ever have any questions whatsoever. Then we'll do a little bit of an interface tour, kind of show you the menu in Homeschool Tracker and where to find things. Then we will discuss subjects and courses within Homeschool Tracker, specifically the differences between the two and how to set them up properly within your account. Then we'll talk about assignments, which are really the heart of all of your record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. Then we'll talk about lesson plans, which are a really popular and time-saving feature. Then we'll discuss reports, specifically the daily task list, as well as report cards and transcripts. Then we'll talk about workflows. And what I mean by workflows is really just how you might use Homeschool Tracker on a day-to-day basis. And finally, like I mentioned, we will have plenty of time at the end to answer any questions that you might have. So first off, where to find help? I think the best place to find help within Homeschool Tracker is right here on these webinars. We do these training sessions at least once a month, sometimes more often than that. And if you go to our website, I'll just switch over here, it's just homeschooltracker.com, and go up to the support tab and click on Training Center. That's where you'll find all of the upcoming training events. You can find an archive of all of the previous webinars here as well. We also did a lesson planning webinar. So we spent an hour or so talking specifically about setting up lesson plans in Homeschool Tracker. So definitely if that's an area of interest to you, I highly recommend checking out the replay for that. And like I mentioned, I think these webinars are really the best place to get help, mainly because, like I said, we do answer all of your questions that you might have. So even if, you kind of have the basics down, you can always jump on one of these whenever we have them, or just come on right at the very end and ask any questions that you might have. And it's a great place to do that because I can show you live kind of how I might think about the question that you're facing. The next place I would recommend for getting help would be our Getting Started tutorial videos. So at our help site, which is just help.homeschooltracker.com, right here at the top are our Getting Started tutorial videos. So these are broken up into 11 parts. Each one is just a few minutes long altogether. You could probably watch the whole thing in about 30 minutes or so. And this is a great way to kind of jump straight to a specific area that you might have questions about. And while we're here, our help site in general is a great place. So it's really set up as kind of a reference guide. So as you'll see here, as I scroll, you'll see all of these different keywords here. So one thing I like to show folks is when you're in Homeschool Tracker, let's just say here I am in Homeschool Tracker, and I'll just go to the calendar view real quick. Any place with any screen that you're on in Homeschool Tracker, if you just click on this help link up here in the top right, if you click on that, it'll take you directly to the corresponding help page for the page that you are on. So here is the help page for the agenda calendar view. And as you can see, it has anything and everything you wanted to know about that page, as well as links off to other relevant areas. So that's definitely a great way to utilize the help site. And last but not least, email. You can always email us at support@homeschooltracker.com. We monitor that email box all the time, and we typically respond to each and every email we receive, usually within 1 to 2 business days. at certain times it can get busier, but we definitely want to respond to you with as soon as we can. So definitely don't hesitate to email us at support@homeschooltracker.com. Okay, so I see a question just came in from Kimberly. She asked, how did you get to that help page that had all the topics listed? Oh, so real quick, Kimberly, one where where I mentioned any screen that you're on within Homeschool Tracker, if you just click on the help link up here on the top right, that'll take you directly to the corresponding help page. If you wanted to just get to the main index for the help site, you could just click on the logo here and you'll get the homepage for that. Or you could go directly to help.homeschooltracker.com. Okay, so let's jump in to the interface. So I'm going to jump, let me actually close some of these tabs here. Okay, so what I want to do is go over the Homeschool Tracker menu with you. So when you first log into Homeschool Tracker, you're greeted with the menu. It should look something like this. Now, you can always access that menu by clicking on this little caret icon here. And the menu is broken up into 5 different areas. So in the top left is the schedules and planning section of the menu. This is where you'll find the agenda, which is basically just that. It's the list of anything you or your student need to do. And that's displayed both in calendar view as well as a list view. And we'll cover that a little bit later. This is also where you'll find all of your lesson plans, as well as the shared lesson plan library. Below that is the students section of the menu. So this is where you'll find your main student list. This is where you can set the grade levels for all of your students. The grading overview shows you each and every grade that your student received over a given time period. Lesson plans and presets, we'll cover that a little bit later, as well as the transcript supplemental. So the transcript supplemental is really where you might enter in extracurricular activities, standardized test scores, that sort of thing, and those items would be added on to your student's transcript. The reports section of the menu right here in the middle, these are all different reports that you can generate. Now, the reports are generated as PDF files, which you could then download, print out, or email to somebody. And everything from the attendance report to a course list report, the daily task list, which we'll talk about later, report cards, transcripts, they're all available here. In the top right section of the menu, this is what we call the Manage Lists section. And this is really more of a maintenance area of the program. We call it more of a maintenance area because it's not necessarily a place that you're going to be in and out of a lot. So for example, each one of these items is a different list of other items. So the activities list is just that. It has a list of all of the activities within your account. Chores. So this is a list of all of the chores that you've set up. All of your courses, all of your subjects, your school years, they all exist here. So if you ever wanted to create a new school year or edit a school year, this is where you would go. If you wanted to create a new course or edit a course, this is where you would go. But again, that's kind of why it's more of a maintenance area. We're not going to be doing that each and every day, but this is where you go to do that. And then finally, the bottom right section of the menu, this is the Your Account section. This is where your main program options are, where you can set up your school profile. Subscription and users is where you can modify your subscription settings or create user accounts for your students or other teachers. So that's just a quick overview of the menu. Next up, we want to talk a little bit about subjects and courses. So within Homeschool Tracker, we think of subjects as really those broad areas of study. So things like math, language arts, history, science, those are what we consider a subject. Now, within a subject, you could have any number of courses. And courses are specific areas of study. So things like Algebra 2 would be the name of a course that would fall underneath the subject of math. Or Composition 1 would be the name of the course that would fall under the subject of language arts. Or Physical Science 1 would be the name of a course, and that would probably fall underneath the subject of science. So the reason this is important is because how you set these up within Homeschool Tracker will be important down the line depending on the types of reports that you want to create. So let's just take a quick look at how this works. So from Homeschool Tracker, I'm going to go to the Manage List section of the menu here, and I'm going to go to my subjects list. So first off, when I come over here to my subjects list, you'll notice that I have currently 4 subjects: history, language arts, math, and science. You'll also notice that there's not really a whole lot of other information here. And that's because subjects are really kind of, like we said, those broad areas of study. There's not really a lot of settings within a subject. You just kind of create a subject and that's kind of it, right? So if I open up history, for example, just double click on that, you can see that I could change the name of it. I could set it to core or elective. I see the names of the courses that fall underneath history right now, and I could set it to active or inactive. Other than that, not a whole lot to change or tweak here. If I wanted to create a new subject, I could just go to Action, Add, type in my new subject name, and hit Save, and I would have a new subject. Now let's take a look at the courses list. So if I go to courses, first off, you'll notice that I have a lot more courses. Right off the bat, I have 9 of them. And you'll also notice that there's a lot of other information here. So courses, or basically things at the course level, you can have a lot of different settings for a course that you can't have for a subject. So let me just open this one here, Ancient History 1. You'll see that I have the name of the course. I choose the subject that it's a part of. I could give it a course code if I wanted to. I can choose to see if it's worth any credit units. So this becomes especially more important in high school. I can determine how those credit units are calculated. I could set a different grading scale for one course versus another course. I could choose if I want to have this course to use weighted grading. I can add notes to this course, and I could set that to active or inactive. So again, at the course level, you can kind of tweak one course so that it's very different from another course in terms of how you grade for that course, how many credit units it's worth, that sort of thing. Now, within a typical Homeschool Tracker account, we typically see folks to have anywhere between, say, 4 and 10 courses, or excuse me, 4 and 10 subjects. Anything more than that, you might want to think about how you're organizing things. Now, on the course side, you could have literally hundreds of courses, right? Because your students over the course of, say, 12 years, they take 6 to 8 courses per semester, and that adds up pretty quickly, right? So thinking about it again, you have subjects, say 4 to 10 of them at the most, and then beneath those subjects, you have all of your different courses that your students take. And so it's important to kind of think about that hierarchy as you're setting things up, because when it comes to creating a transcript or a report card, typically a transcript is organized by subjects, and then within the subject, it'll show you the courses that your student took. And that's just one way to organize a transcript, but it's definitely helpful when it comes to reporting. Same thing goes, for example, if you were generating a report that talks about like how much time you spent in a particular subject. Well, if you took 10 different courses that all were part of one subject, then we know that, and we can add up all the time spent for all those courses together to give you a total for how many hours you spent on that particular subject, right? So that's kind of how we like to think about subjects and courses, and why it's important to kind of think about those as well. Now, a few things to look out for. We definitely don't recommend using the exact same name for both a subject and a course. So for example, if you had the subject language arts, I would not recommend also creating a course called language arts, because it would be confusing. You definitely want the naming to reflect the specificity, right? So you definitely want the name of the course to be more specific than the subject. So again, even if it's language arts 101, that's more specific than just language arts. So definitely think about how you're naming things as well. And then also, if you see a slash, so if you see something that looks like this, where it says subject/course, that slash just shows kind of the break between subject and course. And this makes more sense if I show you. So let me jump back over here. I'm just going to go to the agenda real quick. And I'm going to create a new assignment. And within Homeschool Tracker, you'll see this field a lot where it says subject/course. We do this to kind of speed things up and to save space, right? So instead of having one field for subject and one field for course, we combine the two. And so if I just hit the space bar here, I can see that I have my subjects listed, history, for example, and then I have history/ancient history 1. Now, that slash just shows that right here I'm looking at the course ancient history 1, and the subject is right before that. So that's what this kind of combined field represents. Now, one thing I forgot to do, let's go back to my courses list. I want to go ahead and create a new course, and we'll use this course later. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Action, Add. And I'm going to create a new course called Reading 1. And for Reading 1 belongs to the subject Language Arts. And you'll notice that as I'm typing that, Language Arts pops up. And that's because this subject field here is what we call a smart entry field. And what a smart entry field does is as you're typing, it's searching that corresponding list, in this case, the subjects list, for anything that matches what you're typing. So I can go ahead and select Language Arts. Now, if I didn't know what I was looking for, I could just enter in a blank space and everything in that list would pop up and I could select it that way. So I can go ahead and choose Language Arts. I'm going to keep all the rest here kind of the default for now, and I'll go ahead and click Save. And then I'm going to click Refresh. And there we go. Now I have a new course called Reading 1. It's part of the subject Language Arts, and I can go ahead and create assignments for that course and be ready to go. All right. I noticed that I think there are a few questions coming in. Just so you know, we are going to try to answer all the questions at the end. We'll have plenty of time to answer any and all questions that you might have kind of at the end during our Q&A period. So we're going to save those until the very end. Okay, so let's go back now and see where we're at. Let's now talk about assignments. So assignments are what we consider any schoolwork tasks that we give our students to complete. Okay, so an assignment is literally anything that we are assigning really to our students and that we want to track over time. So this could be anything from a lesson to a piece of homework, to a quiz, to a test, to a field trip, to a lab, anything that you are saying, here, you need to do this, and then I need to make sure that it's done, right? So anything you want to track over time, that's what we consider an assignment. Now, assignments are right here in the middle, and that's why we call assignments the heart of all of your record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. Because all of that information that you put into an assignment, a lot of other information can come out of that, right? And so assignments can come from a couple different places. They can be created individually or in a series. Or assignments can come from lesson plans, which we'll discuss. And once those lesson plans are scheduled, then you have assignments. And now all that information that we put into assignments, things like the subjects and the course and the grades and the lesson information, whatever it might be, from all of that information within an assignment, all of these things can happen, right? So report cards and transcripts can be created because of assignments. We can generate attendance records because of assignments. We can create the daily task list that we can give our students so they know what they need to do because of assignments. And a lot of those other additional reports that you saw, they can pretty much all be created because of the information that we put into our assignments. So that's why, again, assignments are really at the heart of all of your record keeping in Homeschool Tracker. So this is a basic assignment entry form. And you'll notice that the only required fields on this are the student, the subject course, and the date. Everything else is purely optional. Now, obviously, the more information you put into it, the more you can get out of it. But that doesn't mean you have to put everything into it. And a lot of folks often wonder, well, how much information should I put into my assignments? And if you think about it, you really should put in, depending on what you're hoping to get out of Homeschool Tracker. So I always like to ask folks, what kind of reports are important to you, right? So report cards, transcripts, those might be important to you, in which case you're going to need grades. So you need to grade your assignments. Not all of them, but at least some of them. If time spent reports are important to you, then you need to keep track of that here in your assignments, with start and end times or this time spent field. If resource reports are important to you, then you'll want to be tracking the resources within your assignments. So again, it's all about kind of understanding what's important to you in terms of what you get out of Homeschool Tracker, that will help determine how much information you put into it. So when an assignment is marked complete by a teacher, let me just scroll back up here. So we have this complete field here. And once a teacher checks that complete button, a number of things can happen. So attendance can be recorded if we're using auto attendance. Grades can be generated if we're grading. Time spent can be calculated. And then again, all of those reports that we saw earlier, those can all be generated once an assignment is marked complete by a teacher. So let's do a quick demo here. What we'll do is we'll create single and multiple assignments. We'll add grades to them, and we'll mark them complete. And we'll do that both from the calendar view as well as the list view. So I'm going to jump back here to Homeschool Tracker. Let's go to the agenda calendar view. So again, the agenda calendar view is really, it's your agenda, and the agenda is the list of things that you or your student need to do. And the calendar view is just that, it's the calendar view of the agenda, and I'll show you the list view as well. So here we are on today, Tuesday, January 23rd. So let's go ahead and create a new assignment. I'm going to go up to Add and choose Assignment Single. Now I need to choose a student. I'm going to choose my daughter Campbell. And then I need a subject course. Now you'll notice that these here, they say type to search because all of these are smart entry fields like we saw earlier. So I can hit the space bar and see a list of all my subjects and courses here. I'm going to choose Ancient History 1. And for activity, I'm going to call this a lesson. And for a resource, resources are just books that I've designated as resources in my library. So I'm just going to pick one of these. And then PLC stands for page, lesson, chapter. So it's just kind of a text field that I can put different things in. I'm going to call this lesson 1. And for the date, I'll choose today. And let's give it a start and end time of 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I'm going to say that this is worth 10 points. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And there you go. Now I have an assignment on my agenda from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. For Campbell, it's Ancient History 1, and it's a lesson, and it's lesson 1. So let's say today kind of came and went. She did that assignment, and now it's the end of the day, and I want to go ahead and add a grade to it, and I want to mark it complete. Well, if I double click on it, I get this little kind of pop-up box here. If I click on More, I can get back to the editor. So let's say she got a 9 out of 10 on this. And then I'm going to go ahead and check the box for teacher complete. Now, when I check that box, you'll notice that this grade 90% was calculated. And now when I click on Save, a few things happen. So first off, this got a little bit darker in color, showing me that that assignment has been marked complete. And then also this Campbell present showed up here. And that's an attendance record. And that showed up because I have what's called auto attendance enabled. This is something you can turn on or off in your program options. But what it does is basically it says, if there was an assignment that was marked complete on a given day, then I'm going to go ahead and assume that your student was in attendance that day, and let's go ahead and create an attendance record for her. It's obviously a very convenient thing, so you don't have to create those records on your own, but you can turn that on or off or change the settings if you like. So there you go. I created a single assignment, added a grade to it, marked it complete. And now when we think about workflows or how people might use Homeschool Tracker on a day-to-day basis, this is absolutely one of those ways. So you could go in here the morning of or the night before, create all your assignments, do them throughout the day, and then at the end of the day, go in, grade them, and then mark them complete. Totally doable, and in fact, that's a great way to start using Homeschool Tracker. Now, another usage for this is doing it in reverse. So kind of like we're doing now, it's 8:30 or so at night. I could go in at the end of the day and log all of the things that my student did that day. So if I do it that way, then Homeschool Tracker really becomes more of a logging and tracking tool and less of a planning tool, and that's totally fine. You still get all the benefits of the reports and everything like that. This is also a great way to start using Homeschool Tracker, especially if, let's say you already have a system of organization that you like. Maybe it's a binder, maybe it's just a regular calendar, whatever it is. You can keep doing that and go about your day tomorrow, for example, the way that you always have. And at the end of the day, that, tomorrow night, kind of come in here and log all of the things that your student did, and then you'll really start to be tracking all of those assignments and everything, all the work that your student's doing. So that's another great way to use Homeschool Tracker. A lot of unschoolers like to use it that way, but it's just another great way to go about it. Now, we've done that with one assignment. Let's take a look at what it looks like to create more than one assignment at a time. If I go up to Add and choose Assignment Multiple, I'm presented with what's called our multiple assignment wizard. So each one of these tabs here is kind of another state in the wizard. So first off, I can choose more than one student. So I could create this for more than one student if I wanted. I'm just going to choose Campbell here. And for subject course, I'll choose Ancient History. For activities, more lessons. I'm just going to pick one of these. And again, I'll do 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And these will also be worth 10 points. Okay, now I'm going to continue to day and date. And I want this to happen every day. And I'm going to have it start tomorrow, the 24th. Now, I have two options here. I can continue creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted, or I can continue creating items until an end date. I'm going to choose this first one because I want to show you how that works. So now I'm going to continue to PLC. Now, if you remember, PLC stands for Page Lesson Chapter. And if you think about it, typically, if you're creating a series of assignments, chances are they're probably not going to have the same page, lesson, or chapter for each of them, right? The first one might be lesson 1, second one might be lesson 2, etc. So what we've done is we've created this kind of automatic increment tool so that as it creates more assignments, it'll automatically increment that PLC for you. So I'm going to choose one part auto increment. And for the leading text, I'm going to call this lesson. Now, if you remember the assignment that we just created, the single one, we called that lesson 1. So I'm going to start with lesson 2 then in this case. And I am going to go to lesson 4. And I'm going to increment by the number 1, okay? So if we kind of think about how this plays out, it's going to create lesson 2, lesson 3, and lesson 4. So let's go ahead and continue to preview. And continue to preview is just that. It previews kind of what we're about to create. So on Wednesday, it's going to create lesson 2. On Thursday, lesson 3. And on Friday, lesson 4. So if I'm good with that, I can just select all of these and then just choose Accept Selected Items. And there you go. I just created 3 more assignments, and they automatically increment lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. So pretty cool in terms of how you can create more than one assignment at a time and have it automatically increment that PLC information. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like in our agenda list view. Before we do that, I just want to show you a little bit around the calendar view here. So up here at the top, excuse me, these blue tabs, these are essentially different filters for the calendar. So for example, for students, I can choose all students or just some of them. I can choose the types of items I want to see, etc. Below that is this export to PDF button. If I click on that, it'll export whatever I'm viewing in the calendar to a PDF file, which is great if I wanted to print that out. Below that, I can kind of navigate in time here. I can change, what I'm looking at, day, week, month, etc. And then finally at the bottom, it says show full day. So right now I'm looking at the school day, which are specific hours that I have set up. If I hit show full day, it shows me from midnight to midnight, basically. So I can go back to school hours, and you can change your school hours in your program options. Okay, so let's go to the agenda list view. Now, the calendar view is great because it's very visual and you can kind of see things in time. but there are limitations to viewing things in a calendar, particularly being able to see a lot of information at once and to be able to manipulate more than one thing at a time. So that's why we also have the list view. So the agenda list view, again, you have the agenda calendar view and the agenda list view. The list view, it's all the same information, right? The agenda is the agenda, and we can view it either in a calendar view or in a list view. So the list view is pretty cool because it's kind of like a spreadsheet almost, in that you can see a lot of information at once. So for example, this is that attendance record that was created. This is that first assignment that we created. I can quickly see that this has already been graded and it's marked complete. And these were those next 3 assignments that we created. So just at a glance, I can kind of see a lot of information at once. The other nice thing about this is I can edit more than one item at a time. So if I select all three of these assignments and then go up to Action, Multi-Edit, I can say, let's go ahead and grade these. I'm going to give them all an 8 out of 10, and I'm going to mark them complete. And I'll click Save. And there you go. Now all 3 of these have an 80%. They're all marked complete. And it also created attendance records for all 3 of these. So again, really quick to be able to multi-edit more than one thing at a time. So that's the agenda list view. Really powerful. And I think you'll spend a lot of time in here kind of manipulating and editing your data. Just a quick overview here. On the left in this green bar here, these are those same filters that we saw in the calendar view. So I can change the date range. I can choose which students I'm looking at, the types of items. And then over here on the right, this is obviously the data itself. And you can sort by these different columns here. So if I wanted to sort by date, I could do that. The other nice thing is I can group by these columns. So if I take, for example, this type column, and if I take it and I drag it up to this area here, now it groups by type. So all of my assignments are together and all of my attendance records are together. That's a really handy feature. A lot of people like to use it for type, or you might group by student, for example. If you have like 5 students, you could drag the student title up here, and then all of each student's items would be kind of broken up together. So really handy and a lot of flexibility here. Okay, so just to recap on assignments, we created single and multiple assignments. We added grades to them and we marked them complete. We did that both from the calendar view as well as the list view. Now let's jump into lesson plans. So lesson plans are a really popular feature within Homeschool Tracker because they can save you a lot of time and they can allow you to plan ahead. One thing I will mention is that they are entirely optional, right? You don't have to use lesson plans, but they, like I said, they are really a great feature. Now, what is a lesson plan? A lesson plan is really a sequence of items that have not yet been scheduled as assignments. So you can kind of think of them as a list of assignment templates. So when we think about a lesson plan, I oftentimes like to picture a stack of papers on my desk, right? And each one of those papers is a different lesson that I might assign to my student at some point. But I want to kind of sort those. I want to have them be in the exact right order before I do anything. I'm going to plan out my whole curriculum with that stack of papers. And when it comes time to work on them, I can take the one from the top and I can hand it to my student and it becomes an assignment. And then when she's finished with that one, I can go to the next one. I can assign it to my student and I can keep doing that over and over again. And the nice thing about assignments is lesson plans is this is great if you have like a predefined curriculum. Like let's say you bought something off the shelf and it might come with a lesson plan already. This is also great if you like to just plan everything out in detail all at once ahead of time. Now, the other nice thing is that these lesson plans, they're not tied to a particular student. So that means they can be reused over and over again. So if I created a lesson plan for freshman biology, I can use that for my older student. And when my younger students take that course, I can use that same lesson plan and it's already ready to go. And finally, the other nice thing about lesson plans is they can be shared or imported using our shared lesson plan library. So our lesson plan library, it's all user-generated lesson plans that others have created. There are over 1,000 lesson plans in there currently. So definitely a great resource to be able to access lesson plans that might be applicable to you. This is also nice if you're already part of a group or a co-op or something. You can create a lesson plan for your group, share it in the library, and then all of your group members could grab that and use it. So let's do a demo on lesson plans. What we'll do is we'll see an example lesson plan. We'll create a simple one, and then we'll import a lesson plan from that shared lesson plan library, and we'll discuss how to schedule this lesson plans as well as using presets. So let's see an example lesson plan first. So I'm going to go up to my menu and I'm going to choose the lesson plan link here. Now, if you're just starting out, you probably don't have any lesson plans in your account already. You would need to create one or import one. I happen to have a few, so I'm going to go ahead and load up one. I'm just going to choose this arithmetic one here. And now, at first glance, you'll probably notice that the lesson plan screen looks a lot like the agenda list view, right? And that's because it's following a similar paradigm. So over here on the left, the purple tab here, these are all those different filters. And then over here on the right, these are all the different items. Now, if you look at one of these, let me just go ahead and open this one. This looks a lot like an assignment, right? Except it's missing a few important things. It's missing a student, and it's missing a date. All the other items are here, though. And that's why I really like to think of these lesson plan items as kind of like assignment templates, right? This is the beginning. This is essentially everything an assignment needs to be, except it's not actually assigned to anybody yet. So if I were to assign this to somebody, then you would have a student and you would have a date. But until then, it's a lesson plan item. Now, the cool thing about lesson plans is if you'll notice here, on day one of this lesson plan, we're doing lesson 2, or we're doing lesson 1. On day 2 of this lesson plan, we're doing lesson 2. Day 3, lesson 3, and so on. When we get to day 12 of this lesson plan, looks like we have an oral test that's worth 100 points. And it looks like we also have another test worth 100 points. Then we get back into the lessons, and then there's another test on day 17. Now, if I keep scrolling, go all the way down to the bottom, you'll notice that this goes for 171 days, and there are 202 total items in here. So this is really an entire year's worth of arithmetic lessons already set up, ready to go. And so that's why this is incredibly powerful, because you can create these at the beginning of the year or whenever you get a new piece of curriculum and plan out your entire lesson plan and have it ready to go whenever you or your student is ready to actually start using it. So that's what a sample lesson plan looks like. Let's go ahead and create just a simple one. I'm going to go to add, and let's do add multiple. Now, first off, you'll notice that the add multiple lesson plan items looks a lot like the add multiple assignments wizard, right, that we saw earlier. Because again, lesson plan items and assignments are very similar. So first off, it's defaulting to what I'm currently looking at, the arithmetic one, because it wants me to add items to that. But if I wanted to just create a new one, I can just give this a new name that does not exist currently. So I'm going to call this sample plan. And for subject course, let's choose Ancient History 1. And these will be lessons. Let's just pick a book. And let's say these are all worth 10 points. And then I'll continue to day numbers. So I'm going to start on day 1, and I'm going to increment by 1. And then let's go to PLC. So again, I'm going to do that auto increment for the PLC. And I'm going to choose the leading text as lesson. I'm going to start with 1, and let's just go to 15, for example. So I'm going to start with day 1, and I'm going to go to day 15, which will be lesson 1 to lesson 15. So let's continue to preview. And here's a preview. So day 1 is lesson 1, day 2 is lesson 2, so on. So I select all of these and then choose accept. So now if I load up my sample plan here, here we go. I have a sample 15-day lesson plan, and each day is different. We're starting in lesson 1, and we're going all the way to lesson 15. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to click add and choose single this time, because I want to add a test to this at the end. So I'm going to choose test, and this will be on day 16. Let's say it's worth 100 points. So let's click save. And there you go. So now I have a test at the end worth 100 points. Now I could continue this sequence and create all 180 days if I wanted to. But definitely if you are intrigued by lesson planning, you want to learn more about it, and you definitely want to utilize it, I highly recommend checking out that replay of our lesson planning webinar that we did, because we show you some really cool tips and techniques for creating these really quickly and efficiently. And we even show an example of where we had kind of an off-the-shelf curriculum that we purchased that came with a lesson plan, and we translate that lesson plan from kind of the printed page into a homeschool tracker lesson plan. So definitely check that out. Okay, so let's see. We saw an example lesson plan. We created a simple one. So let's import one now from the shared lesson plan library. So if I go to the shared lesson plans link here, if I want to see all of the lesson plans out there, I just put in a blank search here and click go. And I can see, I'll just scroll through here so you can kind of get a sense of it. There are literally hundreds of lesson plans in this library. And they have a lot of users will submit them with descriptions. A lot of these are based off the shelf curriculum. And now keep in mind, these are created by other users just like you and me. And so that means they might not be perfect, right? But they very well could be a great start. Or they could be good inspiration for you if you want to just see how some lesson plans are created. And then you can kind of go off and create your own. So again, keeps going. There's, at last count, we had over 1,000 here. But I'm going to go ahead to the top here. I'm just going to search for reading. And I'm going to go down to this Usborne First Reading Level 1 plan. If I click on it, I'll get a preview of it. Now, so you'll see here, this is a 15-day lesson plan. It has different resources for each day. It has an activity, different PLC for each day. So this looks great. I want to go ahead and import it into my account. I'm going to choose Prepare for Import. And first off, I need to give it a name. So I'm going to call it Reading 1. And then I need to select which items I want to import. I'm going to import all of them. So I'll select all of them. And now I can just click on Accept Selected Items, and it'll go ahead and import those. But before I do that, I can also modify these slightly. So I happen to notice, right, that for subject course, it just says language arts, which means it's just the subject language arts. Now, if you remember earlier, we created that course called Reading 1, and I want these to be a part of that course. So I could import these and then edit them later once we have them, or I could go ahead and edit them right now. And so I'll go to Action, Multi-Edit, and I'm going to change the subject course to Language Arts / Reading 1, and I'll click Save. Okay, so those are all switched, and now I'll go ahead and accept them, and they will now be imported into my account as part of the Reading 1 lesson plan. Right here, Reading 1. Now I have 15 days of Reading 1 that we just imported from the shared lesson plan library. So pretty simple, pretty easy to import from that shared lesson plan library. Let's now move into how to actually schedule these. So here's my lesson plan. Now I actually want to assign these. I want to use them so that Campbell can start working on them. Well, let's say I want to assign the first 5 days of this lesson plan. I can just select the first 5 days and then choose Action, Scheduler. Now I can schedule these for more than one student at a time, but I'm just going to choose Campbell, and then I'll continue to day and date. And I want these to happen every day. I'm going to have it start, let's have it start at the beginning of this week, just so we can see it all on the same calendar. So I'm going to have it start on the 22nd, even though I know that was yesterday. And let's have it go from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And now I'll continue until all selected items in the lesson plan are used. If you remember, I selected the first 5, so it should just fill out this week. So now I'll continue to preview. And here you go. Here's my preview. So day 1 of the lesson plan will be Monday. Day 2 will be Tuesday, all the way through Friday. So let's go ahead and select these and then choose Accept. Okay. So those are done. And you'll notice that we're still here on the lesson plan page. And this first 5, they're still here, right? Because if you remember, these are just like templates. These are assignment templates. So these didn't go anywhere, right? My lesson plan is still fully intact. I could go ahead and select those same 5 days and assign them to a different student if I wanted to. That's the beauty of the lesson plan. The lesson plan items themselves will always be there, and you can keep using them or reusing them over and over. But if I go to my agenda now, you'll notice that I have 5 new assignments here for Campbell. And they are those first 5 items on that lesson plan, scheduled for Monday through Friday of this week. So when we think about workflow, you can have lesson plans, and you could have them already ready to go, maybe even at the beginning of the year or whenever. And each and every week you go in there, you could schedule the days of the lesson plan that you want to work on that day and create the assignments from that. And it can be pretty quick. You can just go in there, pick the days you want, and be done. So really powerful stuff when it comes to using lesson plans within your account. Now, that scheduler that we just saw, that's kind of our basic scheduler. We also have a more advanced scheduler that I want to show you. So if I go to lesson plans and presets down here, this scheduler is pretty cool because it lets you schedule more than one lesson plan at a time. So in the previous example, we just scheduled that one lesson plan. We picked those 5 days. Well, here I can schedule as many as I need to. So these are the current active lesson plans for Campbell within this scheduler. I'm going to click on edit because I want to add that reading 1 plan to this list. This part of the program does go a little bit slower because it's pulling in a lot of information. It's pulling in all of these different lesson plans and all the different items. So these are the selected lesson plans for Campbell using the scheduler. I'm going to check the box for reading 1 as well. Then I'm going to go to the presets tab here. So presets in Homeschool Tracker, you'll look at this calendar here. These are Monday through Friday. And each one of these blocks is a preset time and day of the week that I want that particular subject course to occur if I'm using this scheduler. So you'll notice Ancient History 1 has a block of time from 9 to 10. Spelling has a block from 10 to 11, and so on. So if I wanted to create a new preset, I could just go to Add. And I'm going to create a new preset for Reading 1. I want that to happen from 3 to 4 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I'll click Save. So there we go. Now I have a new preset for 3 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. So when this advanced scheduler runs, what it's going to do, it's going to look at those lesson plans. It's going to see what subject course they're for. And then it's going to look at these presets and see, okay, when's the next available time slot for that subject course? And it's going to go ahead and it's going to schedule that item at that specific time. So if I go to the scheduler now, I can select which lesson plans I want to schedule. So here we go. I'm going to choose all of these. So that's 7 lesson plans for Campbell. I'm going to continue to day and date. And now what the trick here is, I'm going to choose this preset option. So rather than choosing the days and that sort of thing, I'm going to choose preset. And then all I need to do is choose a start date. So I want to start Monday of next week. And then I can continue until an end date. I just want to schedule just next week. So 5 days, basically, the 29th through the 2nd. I'm going to schedule 7 lesson plans across 5 days, all for next week. So let's continue to preview. Okay, so here we go. This is a preview. These are 44 items, 7 lesson plans, 44 items across 5 days. And here they are. Now let's look a little closer. This first one is from Ancient History 1. It's for Monday. It's from 9 to 10. That was that preset time, if you recall. Spelling from 10 to 11. Arithmetic from 11 to 12. Science 1 to 2. If I go down, here's Reading 1, 3 to 4 p.m. And you'll also notice the day numbers here, right? So this Reading 1 is day 6. So if you recall, I already scheduled days 1 through 5. It remembered that, so it knows that the next one to schedule is day 6, and so on. On Tuesday is day 7. So that's where this gets really powerful, right? Let me go ahead and first select all of these and just choose accept. So now it's going to take all of these and it's going to throw them on Campbell's agenda, all 44 items across all of next week. But again, if we think about workflow, right? If I have all of these lesson plans set up and presets set up, specific times for everything, I can go ahead and schedule an entire week really quickly. So now let's go to the calendar view. I'm going to go to next week, and there you go. Campbell has 44 items on her agenda for next week, all at very specific times and all with very specific directions. So that is lesson planning kind of in a nutshell. We saw an example. We created a simple lesson plan. We imported one from the shared lesson plan library, and then we scheduled them kind of using our basic scheduler as well as the more advanced scheduler using presets. Okay, kind of nearing the end here, talking about reports. So reports, like I mentioned before, these are created as PDF files that you could save, print, or send out. And the daily task list, this is a great report to use on that day-to-day basis if you needed something. And transcripts and report cards. So these can be generated as long as you have at least one completed and graded assignment in a course for a specific time period. Because again, transcripts, report cards are all about grades in Homeschool Tracker. So if you have courses but nothing has been graded, it's not going to show up on the transcript. You have to have at least one completed and graded assignment for it to show up. So let's take a look at the daily task list real quick. I'm going to go up to my reports. I'm going to choose daily task list. And now there's a lot of options here. I'm going to just kind of keep things the default for now. But this is a really powerful report because you can choose all sorts of different factors here so that you can display it exactly how you want. I'm going to create a daily task list for Campbell for next week. Oh, there we go. January 29th. I'm going to go all the way through to the 2nd. So those 5 days, basically those 44 assignments, they should all be on this task list. So let's go ahead and generate it and then pick up the report. And so that just downloaded a PDF file. And here it is. So this daily task list is 4 pages. And you'll notice that 9 a.m. is Ancient History 1, and it just goes on. And each one of these assignments is what she needs to do on that day at that time. And so this is great. If I want to print this out, I could put it up on a bulletin board or in her folder, and she knows exactly what she needs to do each day. So really powerful stuff there. Okay, so just to kind of recap here on workflows, we started off by showing you how to create just one single assignment at a time and grade it and complete it. And that is a great workflow, especially if you're just starting out. And I really like the idea of doing that kind of in reverse, where at the end of the day, you go in, you create the assignments for the things that you did that day. You can also do it with multiple assignments at the beginning of the week, that sort of thing. And then getting a little bit more advanced, you can start using lesson plans, right? You can do a combination of assignments and predefined lesson plans, or you can kind of go the extreme where you have lesson plans for each of your courses, and maybe you have preset times and everything, and you just go in at the beginning of the week and you schedule out the whole week, and then you come in at the end of each day or at the end of the week and you grade things and mark them complete. Totally cool workflow and works really well for everybody. I will say, we recommend only scheduling like 1 or 2 weeks at a time. There's this, this temptation to schedule your entire year all at once. We really kind of shy away from that because, scheduling just 1 week or 2 weeks at a time gives you that flexibility. If you want to move faster or slower, it allows you to just be a little bit more nimble. So definitely recommend just doing that. Schedule 1 or 2 weeks at a time. But, that's kind of the range of workflows. And obviously there are so many different ways that people use Homeschool Tracker. These are just a few of them. And, certainly depending on you, your needs in your homeschool, the way that you use it may be different as well. So that's kind of the beauty of it. It's kind of this very open platform. And depending on, like I said earlier, how much you put into it will determine how much you get out of it. All right, so let's turn it over to Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to submit them using that Q&A button there in your viewer. It looks like Kimberly had a few that came through the chat here. Let me just see where it is. She says, if I have multi-aged or grade students in my house, can I make it so that a course is for 4th grade or 6th grade, or should that be handled in the title of the course? Yes. Yeah. Let's see. So if you have students that are at different grade levels, I would say, and this is how I would do it, but everybody can do it however they want, right? That's the beauty of homeschooling. I would have the courses determine kind of the grade level, right? So the name of your course, for example, it could be as simple as like 4th grade English, 4th grade math, that sort of thing. And that way, kind of where it is and who it's for. You can, if you're gonna start using lesson plans, you can do the same thing with the lesson plans. A lesson plan called 4th grade math makes perfect sense as to what it is and who it's for, right? So I think that was probably the way to do it for most folks. Patricia's asking, is it possible to add website links to lesson plans and assignments? Yes, absolutely. Let me show you how to do that. So I am going to, let's just go to the calendar view here. I'm going to open up this assignment. And so this is an existing assignment. Either it's existing or you created it new, however you want. Right here, Patricia, is this links field. So if I click on that, I can add a new link. So I can add new record, and let's just put in the link. I'll just put in Google, let's say, and then the caption here, and then I'll click save. So now this assignment here has links associated with it, right? So if I click on that, it'll take me straight to Google. Obviously, that could be a link to resources online, a Wikipedia article, or it could be if you're using like an online curriculum, for example, like Time for Learning or anything like that might have a link associated with it, you can absolutely put it here. So hopefully that is helpful, Patricia. Kimberly was going to ask that too. Great. Annette's asking, how do you use the 3-part increment for creating lesson plans? Great question, Annette. I'll show you how to do that. So what Annette is asking is the auto increment for the PLC. She's asking about it specifically for lesson plans, but it's the same for assignments. I'm just going to show you using assignments since we're here already. So for assignment multiple, okay, let's go ahead and create this for Ancient History 1 again, and these will be lessons. And I'm going to continue today and date. And we will continue creating until PLC pattern is exhausted again, okay? So when we get to the PLC, now this is the same for multiple assignments or multiple lesson plan items. You can have the same PLC for each copy. So this could all say the same thing for each item you're creating. You could do a 1-part auto increment, which we talked about already, kind of lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, so on. You could do a 2-part auto increment. This is helpful if you've ever seen like a workbook or any kind of school book. It might say like lesson 1A, lesson 1B, lesson 1C, lesson 2A, lesson 2B, lesson 2C. That's where you would do a 2-part auto increment. So in this case, the first one might be lesson 1, and then let's say it goes to like 5. So it'd be lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. Then the second part might be the A, B, C, D, right? So this could be A, and this could be C, okay? So if I were to just do this, it would be lesson 1A, lesson 1B, lesson 1C. Then it would go lesson 2A, lesson 2B, lesson 2C, lesson 3A, 3B, 3C, so on until finished with 5C would be the last one. A 3-part auto increment is just that. it's 3 parts, right? So this example here, lesson 1A1, lesson 1A2, lesson 1A3, lesson 1B1, lesson 1B2. So I think it's probably pretty rare, that you would come across that, but it's entirely possible. And that's why we built it out here. So I'll just show you an example here. Let's do kind of what we were riffing with here. I'm going to shorten this up because it's going to create a lot of items. And then so the first one will be numbers, lesson 1 through 3. The next one will be the letters, A through C. And then let's do numbers again. So we'll start with 1 and we'll end with 3. Now, what I always like to do when we're kind of doing these auto increment things, and I think it's like a good exercise, is to try to visualize like what it's going to look like before you hit continue to preview, right? So if we look at kind of what we're building here, we're going to do lesson 1A1, lesson 1A2, lesson 1A3. Then we're going to do lesson 1B1, lesson 1B2, lesson 1B3, right? That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. So let's continue to preview and see. And here we go. Lesson 1A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, C1, 2, lesson 1, C1, C2, C3, lesson 2A1, lesson 2A2. Okay, right? So this is how it goes. And so that may be applicable to you or your curriculum. Again, if you check out that lesson planning webinar that we did, just in case folks missed it earlier, if you go to homeschooltracker.com, up to support training center, this lesson planning webinar here, if I click on it, it'll just take me to the YouTube link for it. This is a great webinar where we go really deep into those auto increments, how to create lesson plans from really complex patterns, all sorts of stuff. So definitely check this out. I think you'll find it really helpful. Okay, Kimberly's asking, and how about resources that are websites, like for research? Are those added to the library? Thinking things that get used regularly so that kiddos can go to one place to see all of them. That's a good question. I don't know if I've really looked at that, to be honest. So let's just take a look. If we go to the library and we were to add a new item. So again, the library here is in that manage list section of the menu, right? Kind of our maintenance area. So library is a list of all the items in my library, and they can be designated as resources for specific courses or for all subjects and courses. So if I go to click on add, I can, one cool thing is if it's a book, you can put the ISBN number in here and it'll automatically pull in that information from Amazon, so that all of the book information comes in. But what Kimberly's asking is, like, let's say it's a website, right? Well, let's put one in. Let's just call it Wikipedia, and the type, could be website. And in terms of where I might put the actual information, it could go into this custom field. So custom is basically anything you want it to be. It's a field that has no real name, but it's something that each user can determine how they want to use it. So a lot of folks use custom. I happen to know that a lot of folks use custom to mark in whether a resource is in their possession or not, right? So like, let's say they have friends that borrow books all the time. They could put in who has this item, in the custom field. They could say that, Darlene borrowed it. So they'll put their name in there. You could use that for the website, right? You could put, wikipedia.org right there. The other place you could put it is in the notes field right here, right? So if I go to notes are essentially a full rich text editor here. In fact, you can insert hyperlinks right here. So for example, if I wanted to put Wikipedia, and I could just make this a link right away. Oops. And now that is a link to Wikipedia when it's ready to go. And here we go. If I click on it, opens it right up. So that's probably the best way to do it, Kimberly. I would say, create it, give it a title, and then, you could log it as a website and then create the link right there. And now I have that as a resource here. So I could add this to an assignment as the resource. Okay, Annette is asking, is there a way to tell which lessons have already been assigned? On HST Plus, there used to be used and unused filters. That's a great question, Annette. And yes, there is. Let me show you how to do that. So what Annette is asking, if you were not an HST Plus user, is when you are using lesson plans, and I kind of showed you briefly how this worked, but Homeschool Tracker is keeping track of where you left off in your lesson plan, right? That's why when we scheduled that reading one plan, it picked up on day 6 after we'd already scheduled the first 5. It's doing that because it knows which ones you've used and which ones you haven't used. So here I am in the lesson plan screen, and I have reading 1 loaded up here. So right here under displaying, it says all items. If I click on that, I can change this, right? Right now it's displaying all of them, but I could change to show used by student. And so this is student specific, which is cool too. So, for example, we know that Campbell has already used some of these. We know Manning has not used any of them, but let's just choose Campbell. And for status, I could show both, meaning both items that have been used and have not been used. I could show just the used ones or just the not used ones. I'm going to show both just so you can see what that looks like. And what that really does is it adds these other columns here. So of these 15 days, right, I can see that we've used the first 10 because under the used column, right, all of these say yes, 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 yes. These were all used already. The other cool thing is it shows me the used date. So it tells me what date that item was used, or what date it was scheduled for. So I happen to know then that the next one for Campbell is day 11, which is cool. Let's just go ahead and look real quick and switch this to Manning, and you'll notice that he hasn't used any of them, right? So this is also the power of a lesson plan, meaning it's student specific in that it knows that Campbell is on day 11, and it knows that Manning is on day 0 or on day 1. So if I were to schedule this for Manning right now, it will pick up with day 1. If I were to schedule it for Campbell right now, it'll pick up with day 11. Now, sometimes you may need to change the used status. So for example, let's say I deleted Campbell's assignments that we created. So we created, assignments for the first 10 days of this lesson plan. So if I try to schedule it again, it's going to pick up with day 11. But let's say I deleted, maybe it's on accident or maybe intentionally, let's say I just deleted all 10 of those assignments on the agenda, and I want to basically restart her back on day 1. Well, I'm going to need to change this use status. I'm going to need to reset this use status. That's pretty easy to do. If I want to select the ones that I want to reset, I can just go up to action and I can choose set used status. So I can change these to either used, not used, etc. So if I want to change these all to not used, I can click save, and all that information goes away. Now that's gone like forever. Like I basically just deleted that used status information. So now when I go to schedule for Campbell, it's going to start with day 1. It's rare that you might need to do that, but it does come up occasionally. So I just wanted to show you how to do that. Okay, hopefully that's helpful, Annette. Any other questions? Feel free to send them in. I like getting these questions. It makes me have to kind of think on my feet. One thing I didn't mention earlier is we will be sending a recording of this to all of you. But also, we really appreciate all of you joining the webinar. We know that it takes a lot of time and effort to do that. So what we like to do for everybody that has joined the webinar is we will credit your account with a free month of Homeschool Tracker. What that means basically is we will go in and let's say your subscription is supposed to end on January 24th. We'll basically make that end a month from now, February 24th. So you'll get an extra month for free basically. So hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully that's helpful as well. All right, let's see. Any other questions? Annette is asking, is there a way to do transcripts for both letter and number grades, but without having separate years indicated on it? That's a good question, Annette. This one might, I'm not trying to shy away from the question, but this one might be harder to answer live because I need more data in my account to show you that. But let me just reread the question here. Is there a way to do transcripts for both letter and number grades, but without having separate years indicated on it? So the combined transcript, I believe, does not show the years. I don't want to answer without having all my stuff figured out in terms of to show you good examples. So what I would recommend, Annette, if you could send us an email at support@homeschooltracker.com with your question, and maybe even an example from your account that we can look at, that might be helpful. Patricia is saying, if a kid took a year and a half maybe to complete a subject, yeah, you can absolutely do that, Patricia. If you want the duration of the course to last longer, that's easy enough to show. I think what Annette is asking, specifically the part about letter and number grades, typically we show I think I know why she's asking that, because I believe, and I'd have to look again at another account to show you, I believe that depending on the transcript format that you choose, because we have 3 different ones, we have columns, combined, and full page, and depending on the one, some of them show both the number grade as well as the letter grade, but I believe there's one that only shows the letter grade, and I think that's probably the one that Annette is talking about having the flexibility on. So anyway, Annette, if you could email us again that question, we can definitely take a deeper dive into it and see specifically what might work for you. Okay. Any other questions out there? All righty. Well, if there are no other questions, let's go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. I do want to, again, just say thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. And again, we will be sending you an email with a link to the recording, as well as we'll be crediting your account for a free month of Homeschool Tracker. And like I said, we really do appreciate you joining us tonight, and hope to see you again soon. Thanks again. Take care.